It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
If you drive a car, truck, SUV, or vehicle of any kind, you need Get Upside, the free gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. That's right. With the free Get Upside gas app, you can get up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time you buy gas. Nearly 3 million people have earned cash back with Get Upside just for buying gas.
I always use Get Upside. Some months I make $200 to $300.
I love getting money back for things I use every day. It's just free money for buying gas.
There's no catch. It's simple. And you get your cash back right away.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents per gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code SALE for a 25-cent per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your next fill-up. You can cash out anytime to PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Earn cash back on gas on every fill-up. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SALE for a 25-cent per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SALE.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are Locked On Cougars. Welcome into a Wednesday Hump Day edition of the show. Hope you all are doing fantastic out there wherever you might be. Plenty to get to ahead on today's show. Some very exciting news breaking yesterday. Garrett McClintock lifting the lid on it, and of course press release coming out shortly thereafter, that Smarty Streets is stepping up to the plate, folks, and taking care of over 300 BYU female student athletes. A really, really cool gesture. We are going to speak with Smarty Streets CEO Jonathan Oliver one-on-one about why he is stepping to the forefront and offering up to $6,000 per student athlete. What is the impetus for him doing this? Well, he'll explain ahead on today's show. We'll also get you the latest when it comes to BYU football, some updates with regards to BYU and their dominance at home of late on the football field there at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. So plenty to get to ahead on today's podcast. A reminder for you guys to make sure you check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast. It's BYU's future home in terms of their conference affiliation. So get up to speed on everything you need to know about the Big 12 with our good friend Josh Neighbors, who hosts it every single day. Download Locked On Big 12 on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, without further ado, though, here on a Wednesday, let's dive on in. This is the Locked On Cougars podcast for September 22nd, 2021. What's up, my friends? I'm Jake Hatcher, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. I work for the Zone Sports Network in Salt Lake City, Utah. Thank you again for taking some time to join us right here on your only daily podcast focused on all things BYU. Hope you all are doing great here at midweek. Plenty to talk about ahead on today's show, but wanted to start off today's show with a quick reminder once again to make sure you guys hit that follow button wherever you're listening in from, and also make sure to follow the show on social media. Why am I mentioning following the show on Locked On? Why am I mentioning to follow the show on social media? Speaking of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Locked On Cougars. Well, at some point during today's show, I am going to explain how you will be entered to win a pair of tickets to watch BYU take on USF this weekend for free. Yes, we've done this for the past 2 weeks. We're giving away those tickets on today's podcast, or at least giving you the way to enter to win. So if you guys want to be part of that, I would just say, hey, pause the podcast right now. Go make sure you're following the show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, whatever social media platforms you happen to use. Go follow the show on those, and we'll explain how we're going to give away these tickets here in just a minute. Now, other news we need to talk about on today's show. I caused a little bit of a stir with my take on Kalani Sitake and the interest in him as a candidate for open positions such as USC. And I expected that because I know that BYU is obviously hoping to keep Kalani Sitake in-house. He wants to be at BYU. It's very clear. This is a guy who loves Provo. But, as I mentioned yesterday, there will come a number, there will come a time when some program, potentially USC in this case, but the USC will not be the first or the last to do this, who will come and offer Kalani an opportunity to make what I call generational wealth, something to set up your family for generations to come, just with the exorbitant amount of money that you have made in your career. It's one of the greatest blessings of being a head coach in college football and having success at the level that Kalani Sitake has had it at. And there were some people who fired back at me saying that, Jake, you don't understand what the dynamic is at BYU. You're up in the night on this. BYU's extended Kalani Sitake twice. He's being taken care of. He's just fine. Folks, I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I mean this sincerely. If you knew the people I had talked to about this and the people who also are talking about this, if you knew who they were talking to, and in most cases, I don't know who they're talking to, but I'm talking to similar people. There is legit concern that Kalani Sitake could decide that he is looking for another opportunity and could exit stage right. I'm not saying it's imminent. Let me be clear about that. But let me read an email that came in to lockedonbyu@gmail.com from our good friend and a longtime friend of the podcast, Jordan Kennard. And Jordan, I know you've told me how to pronounce your last name. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly. It might be Kennard, but I apologize if I butchered that. He says, "Hey Jake, love the podcast and especially the insight you give on the BYU football program. I hear you on that Kalani has not been shown much loyalty from BYU, which is a concern for keeping him long term. My question, and here's where it gets interesting, my question for Jordan is what can I, as a fan, do to help with this? Can we write to someone at BYU to ask them to extend him or pay him more money? Can we reach out to Kalani to show him our love? I don't want to just wait to see what happens, but not sure what to do. Any advice would be appreciated." Now, Jordan, I wish I had a good answer for you. You can send emails to the BYU Athletic Department. Direct them, say, attention Tom Homo. I don't know what email address you might use, but you could probably go on BYU staff directory on BYUCougars.com and find somebody or an email address that could hopefully get it in front of Tom Homo. If you had an opportunity, you could get in front of the Board of Trustees in Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's usually the First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a number of members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, and I think there's other church leaders. I think the Young Women's President, the General Young Women's President. Too many minutia there. But if you could get in front of them and plead the case, that'd be awesome. But your chance of getting in front of them is just about as good as mine is, and it's about zilch. So I think the biggest thing you can do is to essentially be a guy who shows Kalani Sitake the love. You can send emails. You can send letters. You could write to Kalani Sitake. I'm sure there's an address for BYU football that you can find online, and if I find it by the time I'm done recording today, I'll be happy to pass it along to you guys. But the biggest thing is Kalani Sitake will have to make a decision that he wants to be in Provo for the long haul. If he wants to be the next Lavelle Edwards, and I know that's a little sacrilegious in a sense to say that he's going to be the Polynesian Lavelle Edwards, but he wants to emulate his mentor. Kalani is one of the proteges of Lavelle Edwards. He credits Coach Edwards with getting him into coaching. He wants to be at BYU, folks, and it is my sincere hope. Let me be clear about this. I'm not saying that Kalani Sitake is going to leave. Let me be clear about that. What I am trying to get across is unless BYU starts to actually invest in their football program, invest in their athletics programs overall, eventually there comes a day and a time and a dollar figure that is offered to a coach that is too much for you not to take it. BYU is going to step into a lot more money suddenly when they enter the Big 12. And I know for a fact, and trust me, if you knew the people I was talking to, you wouldn't question me on this. There are donors out there, and we already know who many of them are. Think of guys like Nick Greer, the CEO over at the Built Brands of companies, and we're going to talk about another guy here in a minute, Jonathan Oliver, who are investing millions of dollars into name, image, and likeness deals. Can you imagine what they would do if BYU were to say, we're willing to let you guys invest more into paying our coaches and making sure they're taken care of? It would be absolutely incredible what BYU might be able to do. So, Jordan, I don't have a concrete answer of what you might do, but it is my sincere hope, my sincere belief, and my sincere gut feeling is that Kalani Sitake does want to be in Provo. He would love nothing more than to build BYU into what it was in its heyday under Lavelle Edwards and go out and win an astronomical rate and hopefully win another national title. I truly believe Kalani Sitake would love to do that, but he has not been shown the love, the loyalty, the whatever you want to call it, that guys like Mark Pope have gotten early on in their tenure at BYU. And there needs to be some, I don't even know how to describe it, just some make goods to take care of Kalani Sitake and make him feel like he's appreciated, like he's wanted. Because I truly believe Kalani's heart is in Provo. But we all know, and any of you who say that you wouldn't are lying to yourselves. I'll be frank, I'd be lying to myself, that there is a dollar figure and amount that somebody would offer you and say, I want you to do X job for X amount, and you would say, where do I sign? When do I show up? We all would do it. So I don't mean to take over this first part of the show and go at you guys, but some of you guys really, I feel like you're not understanding what's going on. So just to clarify a few things, and Jordan, thank you for your email. It was really, really neat to hear from you, and I wish I had a better way to tell you to go donate to the Cougar Club, and that'll automatically take care of Kalani Sitake. I have no clue what the Cougar Club could do to help you out in that regard because, honestly, I feel like the Cougar Club is rather toothless in their ability to do stuff like that. They're not like a traditional booster organization. We've all seen things like Alabama where their booster organization paid off Nick Saban's house. They fund his $9-point-whatever million salary. That's not how the Cougar Club is allowed to operate, and it will not ever operate that way. So I wish I had a better answer for you, and if I come across a way that you can help or do something, Jordan, I'd be happy to pass it along to you guys. But coming up here in a minute, we're going to switch gears a little bit. A really, really cool story coming out of Provo yesterday involving student athletes that are female for BYU and their heyday, their opportunity to make some cash and be part of the name, image, and likeness era that is just dawning. Well, we're going to talk with a guy who really put the money where his mouth is, and we'll explain more about that in just a moment. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. Of course, we all know that it's football season. NFL well underway. College football, we're entering week 4 of the season there. BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. They've got a new updated website, a new interface, and the best part is even more odds, props, and contests that you guys can have some fun with. BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for all of it. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That is double your initial deposit. Think about that. Doubling your money. Really simple. It's all just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100 when you do that. From football to basketball to boxing, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available ahead of this upcoming season and obviously ongoing. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, so take advantage of that welcome bonus, NFL100, to double your money with a 100% welcome bonus. It's all courtesy of our friends at betonline.ag, as they are your online sportsbook experts. Today's podcast is brought to you in part by our friends over at All Guard Pest Control. We've talked to you guys a lot about this company over the years. They're one of the originals, if not the original sponsor here on the podcast. Seth Baird is the owner. He's been a longtime friend and a guy who has taken care of my home for all of my pest control needs for years now. All Guard Pest Control is the best of the best when it comes to pest control. No matter what you need, whether it's residential or commercial, they've got the know-how, the manpower, and just the overall ability to make sure your problems are a thing of the past. They've taken care of it at my house. I've seen it with my own eyes. They are fantastic at what they do. They're located in Utah County, but capable of servicing anybody up and down the Wasatch Front Corridor, even out into the Tooele and Wasatch counties. They don't mind traveling to make sure you guys have your pest control needs met. If you want to give them a call, feel free to do so. 801-851-1812. That's 801-851-1812, or you can learn more about the company by going online. Do a Google search, by the way. You'll see absolutely incredible results. 5 stars only, it feels like, up and down the board. Or you can go to their website as well, allguardpestcontrols.com. That's allguardpestcontrols with an S, allguardpestcontrols.com. Once again, their phone number, 801-851-1812. That's Allguard Pest Control, and tell them that Jake Hatch and Locked On Cougars sent you when you give them that call. Folks, today's podcast is going to be a long one. I'll be honest with you guys. We're going to go over our 30 minutes that are allotted typically that we take care of, but for a very, very good reason. And the reason why is because people are really stepping forward with name, image, and likeness to take care of BYU student athletes. The latest, it is Smarty Streets, which is stepping forward to give each female student athlete at BYU, and also, as you'll hear in just a moment when we talk with their CEO, Jonathan Oliver, all members of the BYU Cougarettes as well as cheer teams, all of them will be eligible to make up to $6,000 as part of a name, image, and likeness agreement with all student athletes. It comes out to north of 300 athletes. I'll let Jonathan Oliver give you the exact numbers, and a potential payout of over $2 million. What a gesture. And this is a really, really cool thing. I cannot tip my cap enough to Smarty Streets and Jonathan Oliver for putting the money where his mouth is. It's easy to sponsor BYU football and men's basketball. We all get that. It'd be even easy to sponsor BYU women's basketball or women's soccer, or if you're a softball fan or a baseball fan, to pick the sport that you love. You know what? Smarty Streets decided, you know what? We have 300 plus student athletes that need some help. We're going to step up and take care of all of them. What a gesture. What a reveal. It took place in Provo yesterday down at the Provo Marriott. And without further ado, let's bring in now the CEO of Smarty Streets, Jonathan Oliver. Jonathan, thank you for taking the time. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the program.
Absolutely. Well, okay, let's start here. Why are you going to be sponsoring nearly 300 female student athletes at Brigham Young University?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Well, first off, it's not just nearly 300. It's over 300. And it also includes cheer and Cougarettes, which I think between both of those teams, that's 60. So it's low 300s, if I have my numbers right. But yeah, why are we doing this? There are so many reasons, but one of the easiest ones is that first and foremost, while football is the most visible component of the sports and the athletic program at BYU, that doesn't mean they're the only program. And we just felt that it was proper and right to shine a light on some of the amazing achievements and accomplishments of these other programs. And these athletes, they're working just as hard and putting just as much time, effort, and energy as the football players. And so we wanted to recognize them for their achievements.
Some might say, well, why don't you go and sponsor the men's basketball team? So what's your answer to that type of a question?
Well, yeah, another great question. I mean, part of it also has to do with my background. So I have 5 kids and 4 daughters of those 5. And so I'm a girl dad. And, you know, I value my daughters so much, and they are just amazing individuals, and they're all like younger kids and stuff. They're not like college age or anything like that. But even so, it's like, I mean, the men's programs, generally speaking, especially football and even basketball, have the various resources they need. And the reason for that is that all of athletics rises and falls with the success of those programs. And so I want to make sure that we just shine that extra light on the women's programs, because, like I said, they're just doing some amazing things, and sometimes they just get forgotten or missed, I would say. And again, they're putting so much effort and energy into this that we wanted to recognize that.
Well, as we talked about before we hit the record button, I do have a vested interest in this, as my wife is a former student athlete at BYU playing softball, and I can attest to what you're saying. They put in just as much time, just as much effort, but they don't necessarily get the same due that some of their other counterparts in that athletic department get. So I commend you on that part of it. I also wanted to ask you, Jonathan, what is Smarty Streets?
Great question. Yeah, I've been answering that a fair amount of today. And so we are, address verification company, that's one of our things that we do. A simple example, if you're a large online retailer that most of America uses on a daily basis, let's say you're going to send a package. Well, you want to make sure the address you're sending it to is real before you send the package. Otherwise, package goes out, comes back, it's kind of a hassle. And so we have an API that these kinds of e-commerce websites can hook into. They can say, oh, the address has got some problems. Here's what's going on. And in fact, so if you ever type in your address and it says, do you mean this instead of this? Typically, it could be us. Let me back up and say it this way. If it does it right, it's my software. It's our company. If it does it wrong, it's one of our competitors.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. Yep. I'm gonna be paying attention to that next time, and obviously I'll be sure to check back with you if it ends up doing the right thing.
Yeah, if it's wrong and it's smarty, boy, you let me know and we'll make sure we get that taken care of for you. But and I should say, like in the industry, like some of our competitors are really bad at it, and I mean that very. It's gonna sound weird. I mean that very sincerely. When I'm looking at the results coming back, I'm like, wow, these are awful. And so we try to make sure that we always have the correct address that's coming back, because it's a big deal. I mean, so let's say you're a company, you're sending out a tech to do a repair at a location. You don't want to send them on a wild goose chase. It makes the customer mad. The customers or the company's losing money. Everyone loses, and it's just because of some silly little data issue. So we try to make sure that doesn't happen.
You guys are going to be offering $6,000 per student athlete at BYU via a name, image, and likeness agreement. This could, according to what I read, could be as much as $2 million out of your company's pocket for these student athletes. Yeah. How do you feel you'll go about recouping that money? Great question. Yeah, this is one we've been we thought long and hard about this one, and let's start with this. So, Built. They did their deal with football, and I am just so excited that they did that, because they really kind of paved the way. They figured out all the moving parts and made it happen, and there's a fair amount of press and media coverage because of that. And in fact, millions and millions of views just on a few simple videos that are online, let alone all of this other traditional media outlets. So there's millions of new eyeballs, and for us, it really is just a visibility game where, and in fact, just from today, we've had a bunch of new customers sign up. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge problem at my company. We need this. And just today, and the story is only just getting out there. It's not even really on the major media outlets yet. And so, the hope and the anticipation is that this is in fact a good return on investment. Even so, if it doesn't pan out, and it's calculated risk, and we hope that it does, if it doesn't pan out, we still feel like it was the right thing to do. That, again, these student athletes have put in so much work that we want to make sure that they receive the attention they deserve. I wanted to ask you, obviously, because the sports, I guess I use that loosely, the affiliated sports teams at BYU that are NCAA governed, in terms of the Cougarettes and the cheer teams you mentioned, they were part of this. Did you have to have a separate deal with them, or are they governed by the same rules that the NCAA has put in place for NIL? Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that it was all, we consider Cougarettes and cheer to be athletes. I mean, when you watch them perform, and some of the things they do, they are athletic in every sense of the word. And so we consider them to be very much athletes. At the same time, those two parties or two groups are not governed under NCAA, and that gives us some additional flexibility. So we could do NIL, we could do some alternate things, but for all intents and purposes, we just said, hey, let's just treat them all the same and go down that road. And so right now it's all NIL. But again, for them, like we would just have the same, it's really just an agreement that we have where we say, hey, we're going to pay you X, you're going to do Y for us. You're going to tweet about us, or you're going to post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever once a month, and just bring up general awareness and among other things. And at that same time, we then pay them for that effort as an independent contractor. And so there isn't really, I can go walk up to anyone on the street and say, hey, I'm going to pay you if you do X, Y, and Z. So it's the same kind of thing. It doesn't matter that NCAA is a part of that or not. Fair enough. I figured I might want to ask that question considering they are governed outside of the NCAA. All right. So also, why $6,000? How did you settle on that figure?
Yeah, that was something, again, that was inspired more by Built when we looked at it more closely. They did 6,000 for the walk-ons. Well, let me back up and say it this way. The number 6,000 actually comes from a full tuition. Was one way we looked at it. We said, okay, well, here's the numbers, and here's how much it actually is to cover tuition. So 6,000 is kind of our magic number. And let me back up and say it this way also. Budgetary constraints were also a factor in this because we're like, okay, well, how much? And so we were trying to meet some minimums, like, okay, what does it look like to pay someone to do this where it's worthwhile and it makes sense for them to do it. So 6,000 is kind of our magic number, and tuition lines up with that perfectly. So that's, but again, Built kind of inspired us in that way. We decided that was a good number for us as well.
There you go, part one with Jonathan Oliver, CEO of Smarty Streets. We'll get to part two here in just a moment. He'll explain more of why he is doing what he's doing, kind of the goal for him as he moves forward here to help BYU student athletes, a whole lot more, so stay tuned in just a moment. Now, as I promised, folks, you guys were going to have an opportunity to win tickets to USF BYU on Saturday night. Really simple format here. What I need you guys to do, and I know that not all of you are using all of the social media platforms out there. Locked On Cougars is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've considered branching out and getting onto TikTok and all that stuff, but haven't done it quite yet. So we've got a really simple thing this week. It's a two-part thing. What I need you guys to do is to prove that you are following Locked On Cougars on at least one, or in case if you use multiple social media platforms, at least two of Locked On Cougars feeds, whether that's Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, whatever it is. Just prove to me that you're following us. I'll make sure to vet it on my side as well. And in addition to that, I need you guys to answer this question. BYU under Kalani Sitake has played 14 games as a ranked team. What is BYU's record when a ranked program under Kalani Sitake? The first person to respond with the right answer, you are going to watch BYU and USF on Saturday night. Simple enough. Get to it. LockedOnBYU@gmail.com is the place to send your answers to, or if you want to DM us on social media or whatever, feel free to do it, but I would probably prefer it via email. So LockedOnBYU@gmail.com. You know what? We're going to make that the rule. You've got to email the show, LockedOnBYU@gmail.com, with a picture of you following Locked On Cougars on whichever social media platforms you use, and the correct answer. Under Kalani Sitake's tenure, so in the last 6 years plus, BYU has played 14 games as a ranked team. What is their record in those 14 games? We'll let you guys get to it, and the first person to respond with the right answer will have that pair of tickets to go watch USF and BYU Saturday night. All right, more in a moment with Jonathan Oliver, CEO of Smarty Streets. But first, let's take a minute and talk about our friends over at Built Bar. Folks, they just dropped it. The limited time flavor of cookie dough chunk, one of the top 3 Built Bars out there. It is available for a limited time only. When it's gone, it's gone. And I would encourage you guys, get over there and order it. I happen to order 2 boxes myself, and I am super excited to have them showing up on my doorstep in mere days. The best part about Built Bars is they're absolutely incredible. They taste like a candy bar. They're soft and easy to chew. They're covered in 100% chocolate, and they're just absolutely phenomenal. The best part is, in addition to tasting great, they also are incredibly healthy for you guys. Most of the bars, 17 to 18 grams of protein packed in there, just 130 to 180 calories depending on the bar, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and just 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. It's absolutely incredible. It's a miracle of modern science, and I want you guys to give them a shot. So for limited time only, you can get that cookie dough chunk, or if you're just trying to get more of a feel of what Built Bars are all about, I would encourage you guys to order the mix box where you get 2 of each of their 9 base flavors in addition to that cookie dough chunk, if that's something you're interested in. Get to Built.com right now. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 at Built.com. And by the way, as we've been talking about name, image, and likeness deals, supporting Built Bar supports BYU football in the process. So a really cool way to support the Cougars and also support a great sponsor of ours. That's LOCKED15 at Built.com. Get and join the best tasting protein bars and support BYU football in the process with our friends at Built Bar. All right, college football fanatics, have you guys heard about our friends over at Prize Picks? It is daily fantasy made easy, and it's just a really simple thing, and I want to explain to you guys what it is. Prize Picks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy. They offer more college football props than anybody in the world and offers all the star players in the Power 5, as well as mid-major players you might not have ever heard of. And the best part is they offer any prop you can think of for those players. Yardages, touchdowns, turnovers, interceptions thrown. You name it, it's all there for you guys. And the best part is all you got to do is pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projected numbers, and you can win up to 10 times back on any entry, and it's just you versus those numbers. Seems simple enough? Give it a shot. Use their award-winning app. You can download it on both the App Store and Google Play, or go to their website, prizepicks.com, to give it a shot. The best part about this is entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's really that easy. And oh, by the way, you don't have to just do college football. If you have an interest in the NBA, the NFL, whatever it might be, they also allow you guys to have mixed sports entries as well. Give it a shot. Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals, so don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com or go to your app store and download that app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Continuing on now with Jonathan Oliver, CEO of Smarty Streets here. And Jonathan, you've mentioned Built being a really interesting part of this whole process for you. You kind of said, okay, I saw them do that, and it kind of got the ball rolling for me. Well, was it them that really got you thinking, okay, this is what I need to do, or this is how I need to attack things, or kind of what was the process in all of this?
Yeah, I was excited with the NIL ruling, and specifically the U.S. Supreme Court case. I thought that was pretty phenomenal, and then the NCAA made some adjustments. And here in Utah, we don't actually have any state laws as yet governing that. So BYU has some kind of like processes, or I should say policies in place. They say, okay, here's kind of the things you need to do, and that's all per NCAA specs. But when Built did their thing, I was aware of it, name, image, and likeness, but I didn't really have a good sense of how it was going to work. And so they did theirs with, again, all walk-ons. They paid $6,000, and that was the kind of guidance we got on the number. Like, hey, this seems like a good number. And then they did, I believe, $1,000 for full scholarship athletes. In our case, we didn't even look at their scholarship status, whether they had partial or full or none. We just said, you know what, this is the value they're going to give to us. Let's pay all of them this much. But when we saw that, specifically when I saw that, the Built deal come through, it was a few days later. I've just been thinking about it more and more. And the thought kept occurring to me, like, somebody needs to do something for all the female athletes. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, that's going to be me. So it was just one of those thoughts that just kept coming back. And it took a little bit to get the whole process worked out, because again, we were fairly new to it. And again, there's no laws yet in the state that govern how to work through it. So it was a little bit of back and forth, like, okay, this is our deal with the student athletes, but BYU has some policies and practices in place. We're like, okay, we have to make sure we do this right and do this right to make sure that everything is. What we did not want to do was create any kinds of challenges where all of a sudden this is an ineligible, donation, and then all of a sudden the whole team is disqualified. That would be horrific. So we wanted to make sure everything was just by the book. And everything's so new that we're all kind of trying to figure it out. So it took a little bit after Built to figure out. And plus, football team, I believe, was 100, I would say.
It's 123 players on the football program.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Nick Greer and those guys were just genius with how they did that. And in our case, it's 300 plus. I don't know. I think it's 300 and change, 320 or so. And actually, ours is a little unique also because there's a lot of international players. You look at tennis and some other ones. There's a lot of international players. And NIL, you cannot out of bounds, not permissible. And so we looked at that. We're like, well, how do we approach that? Do we want to even touch that? And then all of a sudden we realized, well, wait, like we have a charitable arm of the company, and it can make a charitable contribution to BYU in the form of scholarships. And on scholarships, you cannot direct to specific students, but you can say the restriction is that they need to be international. So that's a very easy one. The IRS has already established that. And so we just made sure, okay, here's the amount that we need to donate to the university. And So that way the university now takes care of, in their own way, international students as appropriate. So in that regard, we were able to take care of, again, traditional NCAA athletes as well as international, cheer, Cougarettes, all of them.
Well, might I just add my kudos to you for this, because as I mentioned, I think this is absolutely phenomenal. It's something I wondered about when this whole thing went down, if it was going to be football and men's basketball who were going to, and they probably still will take the lion's share of a lot of these name, image, and likeness deals. But like I said, kudos to you and your company for stepping forward and being able to help out these student athletes. And it's actually really cool, as you mentioned, helping international students, helping scholarship, non-scholarship. You guys are just taking care of a lot of different student athletes, and I'm sure it's a blessing in all of their lives.
Well, awesome. I thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's something we thought long and hard about, and just the more we thought about it, the more we decided that this is the right thing to do. And again, it's a positive thing where we're in a world now where so much bad news about every possible topic, and we wanted to see if maybe this is something that people can feel excited about. And so it was a very positive type of story, and we're happy to be to participate in that.
Jonathan, last thing for me, is there anything else regarding this name, image, and likeness agreement that you guys have put forward that I didn't ask you about that you'd like to highlight before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, it's more than just like some of the things we're asking the students to do. It's more than just social media. I mean, we want to engage with the students directly, so just as an organizational morale booster, interacting with these individuals is an incredible experience. They're just so full of life and energy and excitement. And so that has a real positive effect on individuals inside the organization that work in the organization. So we're able to see some benefits there as we have different activities. Example, every year we do a Sub for Santa. We go out, we find some families that are in need, buy presents, wrap the presents, deliver. And that is the highlight of one of our service projects for the year. And this right here, we can now, we've asked these students, these independent contractors, hey, you're going to be participating in this. And so that just multiplies our ability to reach different individuals and expand the positive kind of feeling. So it's just a employee morale booster. And then another great positive consequence for us is that our brand, we're business to business. We're not, built as business to consumer. Hey, you want to get in front of people.
Correct. Yeah.
We only really care to get in front of our potential customers, which are, again, large businesses and so forth. And so what we've realized of late that, when we want to hire a software engineer or someone in marketing or sales or whatever, that we do need to have a little bit of name brand recognition. And so this whole thing, I mean, just in the last few hours, we're starting to get a lot more buzz and interest. And hey, what does this company do? Are they hiring? I think I want to work there. So this has just been nothing but positive for everyone involved, and we are so thrilled to be a part of it.
Did you feel like any of the student athletes had any clue what was coming when you revealed what you guys were doing for them?
I was trying to keep that one under wraps for so long. The coaches I tried to keep them in the dark because, again, this is not a BYU thing. This is a student thing, but I need a little bit of help to gather that many people.
Sure.
And so it's I have to drop little hints here and there. So I think people had an inkling of what was going to happen, but they just weren't sure of specifics and amounts and logistics. So I think people knew that hey, something's, and of course you get 300 plus people in a room oh, what's going on? And they're, of course, they all talk. They're all super well connected to each other and others. Again, which is one of the reasons why social media works out so well there. And so I don't know that they had any, let me say it this way. I didn't see anything posted on social media before the announcement. So in that regard, I think we kept it under wraps pretty good, but a secret that big is hard, or a surprise that big is really hard to keep under wraps. And I've been working on this thing for about a month. So the fact that we were able to keep it under wraps for that long was whew, we made it across the finish line. And I should say starting line, because now the real work begins. We actually got to go through and get everything all functioning and working. And so the real work starts. It's like in software, you ship a piece of software. Oh, yay, we're done. No, that's when it starts. Now you got to maintain it and keep it working. And so that's where we're at.
As the son of a guy who works in information technology, I fully understand exactly what you were talking about. So I
appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a really cool gesture that you are making. I commend you on it once again. And Jonathan, can't thank you enough for taking some time to join us here, and look forward to maybe down the road here once things really start playing out, et cetera. Maybe we can check back in with you and see how things are working. All right.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you so much for your time, and it was a privilege to be a part of the show.
There you go, Jonathan Oliver, CEO of Smarty Streets. You can learn more about what Smarty Streets can do for you guys by going to smartystreets.com if it's something you're interested in. They've got a really cool blog post about what they're doing for BYU's female student athletes. And as I mentioned, I do have a vested interest in this. My wife is a former BYU student athlete herself and absolutely could have benefited from something like this during her playing days, and I really applaud Smarty Streets for stepping up and taking care of all of BYU's female student athletes. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. A big thank you once again for you guys' support way over time. It's a little bit longer podcast, but great information all of the same. And for those of you who really paid attention, you guys know what you need to do to win BYU USF tickets, so get to it. All right, this has been the Locked On Cougars podcast for September 22nd, 2021, and we will talk to you guys mañana.